It's an almost impossible task to completely understand the Alpha Legion, especially of the character Omegon, as a lot of this is almost conjecture and completely unconfirmed. But as a Primarch, it's almost sad that he's almost forgotten and he's completely overshadowed by his more renowned brother. Secondly, I'd like to thank Neil and Ronnie for always leaving comments on the video. Really appreciate it. And thank you to the others who have left helpful advice as well recently. With that said, I hope you all enjoy. Alfarius Omegon, the Primarch of the 20th, the Alpha Legion. One name that is the mask of two men, the twin Primarchs. Alfarius, the face and public figure, with his brother Omegon, the shadow and secret brother. Their true origins will always be a mystery, known only to a few, and what we have are three lies, starting with the persona of the single man, Alfarius Omegon. The most popular story starts with his accidental discovery by the Lunar Wolves Legion. Alfarius was supposedly the leader of a confederation of human systems with a fleet of warships, though no match in size or scale to Imperial vessels. Through trickery and ambush, this ragtag fleet managed to lay low one of the outlying Lunar Wolves battleships. Responding to this unforgivable defeat, Horus himself gave chase, only to find himself in an ambush after ambush, constantly tricked into deadly traps and chasing shadows, until Horus's own flagship, the Vengeful Spirit, came under direct attack. In the ensuing confrontation, the Lunar Wolves smashed the enemy's fleet with desperate attacks. But in this confusion, a single assassin broke into the flagship and through stealth and murder managed the impossible task of fighting his way clear to Horus's command chamber, supposedly slaughtering his bodyguards before Horus himself was forced to confront him. But Horus did not slay the attacker. Horus had realized that only a Primarch was capable of such feats, and he recognized him as one of his missing brothers, Alfarius. Another account was torn from the mind of an Alpha Legion centurion. It speaks of a nameless dead world at the edge of the Mandragoran stars, whose civilization had been wiped out long before mankind first walked upon Terra. On this nameless planet, the lonely Primarch fell into the shattered ruins of a fallen city, destroyed millennia ago. Utterly alone, voiceless, and without help, he was forced to survive against the elements of this desperate world. His solitude was only broken after many long years by a new star falling from the heavens, a Corsair ship of degenerate half-human renegades and alien mercenaries, intent on plundering the dead ruins for any secrets they might find. Instead, they found only death at the young Primarchs' hands. Alfarius stole their weapons, their knowledge, and their vessel for his own, and with it he set out to search for who had made him. Another account states that the lost Primarch was deposited on a thriving tech oligarchy known as Bar Savor. But before the first decade of life there was done, the skies of Bar Savor darkened as the nightmarish Xenos worm creatures known as the Sloth descended to feed. They captured the young Primarch, the one being strong enough to resist them. The Sloth kept Alfarius as a curiosity, twisting his mind with their horrors and enslaving him, and tutoring him to be a living weapon to sow strife and discord amongst their poor victims. It was the Emperor himself who at last liberated him. With his golden battle barge ramming into the head of the vast stone shop of the foul Xenos to break it open. The Emperor's wrath was uncontrollable. What had they done to his son? Supposedly, for long years after, Alfarius remained at his father's side as the Emperor attempted to heal what had been done to his son. The last account states that Alfarius had remained behind, though gravely injured when the rest of the Primarchs were scattered across the stars. There he lay, in the shadows of terror. He grew and was nurtured alone by the Emperor himself. His existence, a guarded secret even from the closest of the Emperor, only revealing Alfarius when all other Primarchs had been found. The best lies are those mixed with some truth, and I believe that amongst these false accounts there is an element of truth within each. During the Horus Heresy, Omegon had asked his loyal captain to assume his identity, using an offering of his blood to strengthen him and give him fragments of his memory. This captain had seen the early days spent by the twins on their distant homeworld, scheming their way to supremacy. He saw echoes of paradoxical horrors crafted by Xenos genius. Perhaps like all the Primarchs, the twins had ended up somewhere that had suited their talents. We will never know the truth, but what we can infer is that their hardwired talents for secrecy and deception only flourished within these years. The Legion of Alfarius and Omegon fit them like a perfectly made glove. Whether the Legion was influenced by them or the Alpha Legion before the reunion is unknown. But I believe that Alfarius and Omegon had absolutely no trouble in assuming the mantle of leadership of their Legion. It seems that even before the Legion was reunited with their Primarchs, they already had the idea of the title that the Primarch would use, Alfarius. This shows that the Legion's cultural foundations persisted and may have influenced the twins too. These strong tenets were formed back in the Alpha Legion's origins during the Unification Wars upon Terra in M29 to M30. It seems the Legion was created in total secrecy on the Emperor's orders. Information on the Legion's own gene seed was made top secret. Like the Salamanders and Space Wolves, the 20th Legion was formed and established largely in separation from the rest of the Legiones Astartes, for the niche they would fill. Unlike the early recruits for the other Legion, the Alpha Legion's recruits had no specific region of origin. The Legion needed the one in a million, the man who would let his identity die to become the weapon he needed to be. The earliest known activities of the Legion saw it conduct abductions, targeted strikes, and assassinations to the Imperium's enemies on Terra and beyond. The designation for this mysterious specialized unit, which took orders from no one, was simply referred to as Alpha. For reasons unknown, approval to rapidly expand these Alpha units was denied by the Emperor. He made sure to limit this force to only around 1,000 to 2,000 legionnaires. There is some suspicion as to why this was done. Perhaps there was a potential flaw with the Legion's gene seed that the Emperor was not able to salvage. Perhaps the fact that the Alpha Legion Astartes seemed on average to be larger, and some of them even considered to be of monstrous in size. Others speculate that the Legion was deliberately preserved separately as an isolated unit for the Emperor's special gene seed augmentation. Again, most likely a mix of half-truths and lies. With the launch of the Great Crusade to reunite humanity, the Legion now carried out their covert operations amongst Xenos and humans in the wider galaxy. These warriors were clearly Astartes, but they carried no heraldry, and sometimes even operated under the false flag of another legion. The operations they undertook were nearly uniformly assassinations, subterfuge, espionage, sabotage, and recovery of unknown artifacts. They also specialized in the abduction of important individuals from within the Imperium itself. They had made it a policy to never leave any witnesses to their activities. However, rumors still spread across the galaxy of this Ghost Legion. During the Rangdang genocides, a representative of the 20th Legion appeared before Lionel Johnson, though identifying himself as Alfarius. The representative acknowledged that the Primarch had not yet been found, but would be in time. This Alfarius offered aid to the Lion against the Rangdan, in hopes that one day the Lion could be made War Master. This Alfarius revealed that the 20th Legion preferred the Lion for the War Master over someone like Guilliman, as they shared similar views on war and secrecy. Though a Primarch, not even the Lion had been made aware of the 20th's existence, though he had been privy to the rumours of a Ghost Legion. I believe it was soon after this when Alfarius and Omegon would reunite with their legion to work in the shadows and carry out acts such as subterfuge, sabotage and assassination. It comes with a price. It requires a man to abandon parts of his humanity. The twins had been cunning and intelligent, but now what was required of them would take them a step further. To fight and wage war is about results, about victory, no matter the cost, be they enemy, Xenos, innocents, or friends. Omegon and Alfarius would eliminate any threat to Imperial victory, to manipulate and scheme, to become the mantle of Alfarius. With most of their lives and personality a secret, we are shown their worldview for when they clashed with their brothers. The most notorious example of this took place in the world of Tessera Prime, where the Alpha Legion, instead of taking the opportunity to capture the planetary's capital and thus force the world's surrender, they allowed the enemy to dig in and to defend it. Now, they could expertly take the defending forces apart in a number of different ways. After a solar week of suffering, seemingly random mishaps, and deadly sabotage, the defenders were forced to capitulate, having taken 90% casualties. When asked why the 20th Legion had not taken the simpler strategy, Alfarius had said, "It would have been too easy." This campaign brought Alfarius censure from almost all of his brother Primarchs. Guilliman in particular raged at Alfarius for his misconduct in war, labelling this drawn-out operation as a mere exercise in cruelty and wasting the Great Crusade's time and resources. The Alpha Legion would not serve again directly alongside the Ultramarines in the rest of the Great Crusade. Such was Guilliman's disgust. Though they are twins and shared one of the strongest connections amongst brothers, this may have been the beginning of a rift. They shared the will for victory, but what was beginning to differentiate them was their pride. Alfarius, often the face of the Legion, was now looking for amusement from his victories, reveling in his superiority. Perhaps being more in the shadows, Omegon's pride had not reached the same levels as his brother. He was willing to commit the deeds just as cruel, but he did not feel so righteous doing it, as he took no pleasure in wasting innocent life. Nearing the end of the Great Crusade, I believe this small amount of doubt was placed in Omegon's mind. This need for victory at all cost had repercussions. This perfect execution of complex strategies and infiltration had led to thousands of victories for the Imperium. But every time the Legion succeeded, the more validated they felt in their worldview. With these successful but honourless strategies, they likely started to see themselves as the perfect, undefeatable force. But this arrogance is hubris, something obvious to the eyes of Rogal Dorn. It was when Dorn chastised Alfarius for his conduct of war that he showed that he executed strategies not with efficiency, but with bravado, telling him that what he did was effective, but it was not optimally so by his own criteria. Alfarius had rebutted that the Emperor had made him specifically to wage war this way. Dorn told him that it was not that he did not understand what he was or what he does. He understood both. But we are what we choose to be. And Dorn is right. There is always a choice. And a choice would have to be made by both of them during the closing years of the Great Crusade. The twin Primarchs were approached by a man named John Grammaticus, an agent of the alien organization known as the Cabal. This Cabal revealed to Alfarius and Omegon the outcome of Horus being named War Master, and the oncoming civil war called the Horus Heresy. They then presented two psychically foreseen possibilities to the twin Primarchs. If the Emperor won the impending civil war, the Imperium of Man would slowly decay over the next 10 to 20 millennia, until it and trillions of souls were ultimately consumed by chaos. On the other hand, if Horus won the war, after 2 to 3 generations, Horus would be racked with guilt for slaying his father, the Emperor, and would ultimately obliterate all chaos-tainted factions in the galaxy and humanity itself. All humans would be destroyed in this process, but the Emperor's greatest foes, the Chaos Gods, would be eliminated. The answer to Alfarius must have been obvious. The ultimate victory was the destruction of the Chaos Gods. He believed the Emperor himself would do what was necessary to save the galaxy. But Omegon felt differently. The destruction of trillions of innocent human lives is no victory at all. These fates must have eaten away at Omegon. He knows the Chaos Gods need to be destroyed, but to condemn humanity to slow decay is the alternative. But like Rogal Dorn had said, there is always a choice. After the virus bombing of Isfahan III, the presumed loyalist Alpha Legion was one of the Space Marine legions sent by the Emperor to destroy Horus. and the rest of the traitor legions at their base upon Istvan V. Assigned to the second wave, the Legion instead turned on their loyalist brothers, firing at the first wave. This became known as the Drop Site Massacre. It is thought by many that much of the traitor's strategy upon Istvan V was planned by Alfarius and the Alpha Legion. In the ensuing slaughter, the loyalist Iron Hands, Salamanders and Raven Guard legions were decimated. The end goal was too important to be ignored, and it requires sacrifice, such as the deaths of their allies. Following the tragic events upon Istvan V, the few Raven Guard survivors fled to their homeworld of Deliverance. Unknown to them, the cunning Alpha Legion had inserted several of their own legionaries, surgically disguised as Raven Guard legionaries who had died upon Istvan V. Gathering intelligence upon Primarch Korax's efforts to reunite and rebuild his legion, he was given a sample of pure Primarch DNA by the Emperor himself. The Alpha Legion operatives patiently waited until the Raven Guard had achieved a genetic breakthrough. In the meantime, they formed a rebellion amongst the old tech guilds of Kievar, the forge world that the Muna Deliverance circled, while assembling Alpha Legion forces nearby waited for an unsuspecting strike. The Alpha Legion successfully tainted the Primarch's DNA, which resulted in disastrous mutations for this newly inducted Raven Guard aspirants. They were transformed into hideous creatures. At the same time, the rest of the Alpha Legion's plans reached their climax. The Kievar rebellion was well underway, supported by these new Alpha Legion forces, who were camouflaging themselves as Raven Guard. Though eventually the loyalist Raven Guard managed to successfully put down their rebellion, and then they killed all of the Alpha Legion operatives they found. In the aftermath of this successful operation, Alfarius was forced to hand over the obtained data to the Emperor's children apothecary Fabius Bile. Unknown to Fabius, though, was that the data was practically useless, and it was incomplete. In truth, the Alpha Legion ensured that they kept most of the integral data for themselves, as well as the design for corrupted Raven Guard. Possibly Alfarius wished to utilize this data to increase the power of his legion, even willing to use the knowledge of the warp to achieve his end goals. Mysteriously following this action, Omegon had met with his Cabal representative aboard his ship. After a tense exchange, the Primarch abandoned him, informing the Cabal that the 20th Legion would fulfill its duties on its own terms, without external interference. The choice had been made. I'm sure Omegon loved his brother Alfarius. With how close their bond was, he must have known that there was no swaying him or other parts of the Legion. This betrayal would belong where Omegon was raised, in the shadows. During the latter years of the Horus Heresy, Omegon took ever-increasing steps against his brother. This included sending troops on a suicide mission to destroy a pylon array, preventing the White Scars from learning about Horus's betrayal. He did this without his brother's knowledge. Afterwards, an Alpha Legion fleet that may have been under Omegon's command did not follow Horus's orders to join the White Scars, but instead seemingly provoked them into hostilities. After blockading them long enough for Jagatai Khan to receive a message from Rogel Dawn, warning him of Horus's treachery. The burden he was bearing during this time must have been tremendous. To have to maintain this lie, many loyal subjects of the Imperium would have to die. The heresy had already cost the life of one of his brothers, Ferret Manus. But I believe what truly separates Alpharius and Omegon is Omegon's lack of total pride. Omegon has had to live as a secret, knowing that all his accomplishments he had were attributed to another. Both the twins at their core are motivated by their duty to the future, but Omegon seeks no reward for his sacrifice. It is Alpharius' pride which twists his good intentions. Rogel Dawn has shown that Alpharius fought without honour. He fought for amusement. Though perhaps not a noble soul, Omegon was willing to fight in the shadows for others and not for himself. With the latter years of the Horus heresy, the traitors had managed to push all the way to the solar system and were preparing for their final strike. Billions of people had been lost in the conflict, and many of the traitor legions had become aligned to the dark gods of the warp. It was the Alpha Legion that would begin the assault upon the fortified system by creating a beachhead upon Pluto. An event that would change Omegon forever happened when the Imperial Fists, led by Rogel Dawn, counterattacked. Dawn and his Huskars teleported directly into the station's command chamber, and soon joined the battle against Alpharius and his elite Terminators. The two Primarchs fought one another in an epic life-or-death duel. Alpharius the whole time taunting Dawn for his inferior values of war, boasting that if only he knew the truth as he did. Using his tremendous speed and prowess, Alpharius was about to impale Dawn with his pale spear. But Dawn had anticipated the strike and stepped in to take the blow to his shoulder to pin Alpharius in place. He then grabbed the spear with one hand, and using his deadly chainsword, Dawn sliced through Alpharius' wrists, severing his hands from his arms, before slashing his brother across the chest and impaling him with his own spear. Finally, Dawn finished off Alpharius with a deadly chop of his mighty chainsword into the top of his brother's skull. Alpharius was dead. He was alone, the moment of his brother's death, Omegon felt it. A piece of him missing. For all their lives, they had been together, had each other's back for centuries. They were both following the path they thought best for the universe. Omegon acted against his brother, but I'm sure he never wanted it to cost Alferis's life. With the death of their Primarch, the Alpha Legion fleet withdrew and retreated from Pluto. Shortly thereafter, he was notified that the War Master demanded that Alfarius speak with him, so that he could know the status of the Alpha Legion's attack. Like he had done many times before, Omegon spoke the words that would be his prison. I am Alfarius, and permanently assumed the mantle of sole Primarch of the 20th Legion. Perhaps because of grief or calculation, Omegon had decided that with his brother gone, the Alpha Legion were done. Alfarius, or at least an Alpha Legionnaire claiming to be him, appeared alone on Ullanor during the muster of the traitor forces there in preparation for the Siege of Terra. No other Alpha Legion forces were present in the system, making many other traitors wonder how Alfarius could be there at all. Before Horus's dark triumph upon Ullanor, Alfarius appeared in the War Master's command tent and gave him a cylinder which contained a detailed layout of all the solar system's defences and infrastructure. This Alfarius then took out a dagger and shattered it in his hand, throwing the pieces at the Horus's feet before leaving. Abaddon demanded that Horus kill him for such insolence, but the War Master instead let Alfarius go. I'm sure Omegon knew that he could not face Horus with his divided legion, that he had to leave the rest to the Loyalists. The Alpha Legion abandoned the siege upon Terra, but ever the deceptive force still engaged with outlying Loyalists to delay their arrival. With the close of the Horus Heresy, the Alpha Legion did not follow the retreating traitor legions into the Eye of Terror. Years later, it would be on the world known as Escrador that Alfarius and Robute Guilliman would meet for the last time. Believing that Guilliman would adopt his standard deployment procedures as outlined in the Codex Astartes, this Alfarius was surprised by the Ultramarines, as a splinter force, including their Primarch, made a quick strike at the Alpha Legion's headquarters. Alfarius was reportedly happy with such a development, as it allowed him to demonstrate his force's superiority. Both Primarchs met in combat, and Alfarius for a second time was killed. Believing the combat over, for what Astartes Legion could ever survive the loss of their Primarch, the Ultramarines were taken by surprise by the remaining elements of the Alpha Legion when they struck back a solar day later. The Ultramarines who had launched the attack on the Traitor Legion's headquarters were harried so mercilessly that by the time they had returned, their casualties were almost total. Something that would play on the mind of Guilliman was how he was able to slay this Alfarius. Guilliman was not renowned for his combat skills compared to his brothers. It should have been more difficult. This would always be a point of doubt for Abute Guilliman. Perhaps him and us will never know the full story. The Alpha Legion during the end of the Horus Heresy was becoming divided, and in the subsequent millennia this chasm only increased. To the 41st Millennium Imperium, most encounter numerous Alpha Legion warbands, coordinating the spread of chaos cults. These insurrections are often used to lure Imperial forces away from more strategic worlds that the Alpha Legion proper would prepare to attack in large-scale assaults. Unlike the other traitor legions, most of the Alpha Legion does not reside within the warp, but rather roams the galaxy as these scattered warbands of warriors, each of which is trained to act independently of the others, in pursuit of their greater cause. In this way, the Alpha Legion was by and large the only traitor legion not to succumb to the mutations of chaos, though there are some among their rank that have attained the title of Demon Prince. The Alpha Legion's role in spreading these heretical cults across the Imperium has earned them the loathing of the Inquisition, whose Ordo Malleus and Ordo Hereticus had devoted considerable resources to finding and destroying their secret bases. The Alpha Legion has been declared exterminated by the High Lords of Terror no less than 3 times. In the 31st millennium, the 32nd millennium, and the 39th millennium. These claims have always been disproved by the next Alpha Legion inspired plot or rebellion that breaks out somewhere in the Imperium. However, with a legion known for its espionage and secrets, the Alpha Legion is a mix of interpretations of their own loyalties. It's impossible to say what Omegon has been up to for the last 10,000 years, but I believe that he lives and has orchestrated his previous disappearance. But I believe he has little to no involvement with the current iteration of his legion. An example of this is his supposed absence with the redacted warband. They still see themselves as loyal to the Emperor and consider their activities as a cull of the weak elements in the Imperium. They also believe that Omegon is still alive and actively search for their Primarch. During this time, they allied with several other, more chaos-corrupted Alpha Legion warbands in the attack on the Maelstrom Zone. Most notably, Quetzalcoatlus and his sons of the Hydra. During this search for Omegon, the warband were drawn into a Necron trap by the Deceiver, as well as a betrayal by the sons of the Hydra. Only the Redacted's leader Occam survived. Perhaps Omegon really did fall to the hand of Guilliman all those years ago. but there is one in the galaxy I believe still thinks he's alive. Sometime after the Terran Crusade, St. Celestine miraculously appeared on the hive world of Sardreka, which had been swallowed up by the darkness of the Great Rift. Yet a Psyker had arisen on the world, who was strong enough to act as an astropathic beacon that allowed its people to continue maintenance and contact with other worlds despite the loss of the Astronomicon's light. But like moths to a flame, the beacon also drew this Alpha Legion warband known as the Unsung. Led by their captain Kassar, they travelled to the world to infiltrate it, defeat its defenders, and corrupt the beacon in the name of the Dark Gods. However, the Alpha Legion faced competition. This was from the Chaos Lord known as Khan the Betrayer of the World Eaters, who had arrived to lead his final assault and claim the life of the beacon for Khorne. When a contingent of Imperial Fist Astartes arrived to aid the belligerent defenders, St. Celestine appeared from the warp not too long after this to aid in their crucial fight. However, she entrusted the Psyker to Kassar, stating that the Emperor had told her to trust these Alpha Legion operatives. I suspect the Emperor knows that Omegon lives. Both the twin Primarchs were defined by their need to fulfill their duty and achieved victory at all cost. What divided them in the end was what that victory looked like. Omegon is a man who has let his pride and ego die, and ultimately through his actions we see that he holds hope for humanity. There is always a choice, and perhaps to fight an enemy like the Chaos Gods, Omegon too has to sacrifice everything. He potentially has stolen gene seed. He faked his own death and abandoned most of his legion for millennia and left the Imperium to stagnate. It is in my opinion that Omegon is on his own secret quest to find a way to destroy the Chaos Gods and save humanity. The ultimate victory.